By the autumn of 1982, the Smiths had their first gig booked at Manchester's Ritz Club, but no permanent drummer. Enter another Irish Mancunian, Mike Joyce.
Well, it came around by mistake, really, because a mutual friend of Johnny Marr's, a lad called Pete Hope, I used to live with him in a flat in Cholton, and he told me that this lad, Johnny, was looking for a drummer in this band, and so it just happened by mistake, really. And then when I went down to well, I mean, kind of audition, I suppose. Went down there, and Johnny was there, and Morrissey, and Dale, the original bass player, and had a play, and really enjoyed it, because I think the musicality was something that had passed me by in the other groups. Although the other groups weren't just, you know, complete thrash. This, musically, I think Johnny's subtlety and his texture when playing guitar was radically different than other players that I'd worked with up until that point.
Well, behind me we have the Ritz, which is a huge ballroom, and it was the venue for the Smiths' first performance on the 4th of October 1982. It wasn't the classic lineup that we remember. Andy Rourke hadn't joined by this stage, and there was the curious guy called James Maker, who was wearing stiletto shoes, a suit, and shaking his maracas, a sort of a transvestite Bez.
To this day, James Maker claims that he never wore high heels on stage at the Ritz. He says they were smart court shoes.
I remember him coming on and introducing us, I think, in French. That's the only time I ever met him. I never really met him before that or after that. I was told he was a friend of Stephen's, and that was it. That's all I was told about him. But again, yeah, he seemed, I don't know, I don't think, slightly pretentious, I think.
Morrissey certainly didn't want the focus to be on anybody else but him, and James Maker wasn't used again. I don't know how seriously James Maker was ever considered to be part of the group. I think he was just invited along by Morrissey, presumably to add a bit of visual flair and moral support or whatever else. I never thought that he was ever considered to be an actual member of the group or even a serious adjunct to the group. I think he was just there.
James Maker was never a long-term proposition, and neither was family man Dale Hibbert.
The fact that I was married, I had kids, and I couldn't fit in with the image that was being prepared for the Smiths. There was definitely an image being nurtured, and I think it suddenly clicked that, oh, there's a bit of an odd one out. I believe that was the reason more than anything else.
So Johnny Marr turned to his former White Dice bandmate Andy Rourke to join the Smiths.
I mean, we were that kind of cocksure about what we were doing, and that we actually thought that, you know, we deserved it, and you know, maybe we did, I don't know, but I think, you know, you have to believe in what you're doing, and we really did. You know, we were all really passionate about it, and I think that's probably what made it work a lot quicker than it would have done otherwise. But yeah, I mean, within kind of 6 months we were doing Top of the Pops, and a bit bizarre.
By spring 1983, just months after forming, the Smiths had agreed a one-off deal to release their first single through the independent Rough Trade Records.
And in love, we can go wherever we please, and everything depends upon how near you stand to me.
They'd also been invited to record a session for the hugely influential John Peel Show on Radio 1.
The very things that excited us about the Smiths when they first appeared, just their sense of otherness and kind of completeness, and the fact that they arrived almost as like beings from another planet. I mean, not in that they were all that weird to look at or anything, although there are people who would have argued that, but it was just the fact that they'd suddenly arrived, and that, where you think, where the hell did this come from?
Those recordings that they did for the BBC were fantastic. I mean, a lot of people prefer them to the actual recordings that they did on their first album. I mean, a lot of people have great affection for the stuff that's on Hatful of Hollow, for instance, and it was very important. I think it brought the Smiths into the student hinterland. People forget how many people actually listened to Radio 1 in those days, and how important and influential that John Peel Show was. I mean, people religiously listened to it, you know, every day. I mean, we didn't have so much. I mean, MTV was just starting at the time. there wasn't that many outlets for pop music on radio or TV when you look back, and Peel was crucial.
The technology exists now and has been developed over the last 20 years to make almost anybody sound okay, which is disappointing in a way, because you no longer get amusingly awful demos from people, or people who are plainly mad, because they can do something that sounds sort of okay. But with the sessions, they're a more natural, more live thing, obviously, and that's what I like, really.
John Peel, bless him, he picked up on it really early on, and really pushed us to the fore, really, and promoted us really well. We did untold Peel sessions. It seemed like we do them every other week. But I mean, a lot of that appeared on Hatful of Hollow, a lot of the Peel sessions. And they were kind of rushed, you know, you do like 4 songs in 30 minutes or something like that, and they have to be mixed as well. But so, you know, there's a few mistakes in there and stuff, but I think fans, you know, kind of like to hear like the warts and all versions sometimes.
The stir created by the sessions resulted in a flurry of interest from major record labels, but the Smiths stuck with the tiny rough trade. When the deal was signed, only the signatures of Morrissey and Johnny Marr appeared on the contract. In the eyes of the law, they were the Smiths.
Were Andy Rourke and Mike Joyce Smiths or hired hands? Well, they certainly thought they were Smiths. I think contractually they weren't. But it's silly to say they weren't Smiths, because their names are on the back of every single album that the Smiths did. I don't think they were particularly bothered. I mean, they stayed the distance. They were there at the beginning, they were there at the end, and, you know, they were Smiths for 5 years, so they certainly were not just hired hands. And certainly there were none of the fans, none of the media ever suggested that they were anything but 100% bona fide Smiths.
I was there. Played on the tracks, played at the gigs. That's all I really needed to know.
But by now it was the band's lyrics, not its business dealings, that were causing concern. Claims that the Smiths were celebrating child molesting had crossed from the music press over to the tabloids.
There were songs which, such as The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Ring Around the Fountain, and Handsome Devil, which had, you know, very suggestive lines in them and very strong sexual undertones as well, and it was easy to, you know, interpret them as being dubious in some respects.
Reel Around the Fountain, that was condoned for being about paedophilia, but I mean, only if you take the word child at its absolute base, literal level, you know, then could you read something into it. And I think that, again, that was largely like a stick created by the tabloids to kind of like, you know, how can we kind of, what can we do about this band or this man with these dangerous views? I think that was a kind of a thing used in a way to kind of beat him down.
I mean, they kind of got it wrong, calling them like paedophiles and stuff like that. And that was a bit of a scary time, because it happened quite early on.
The paedophile row may have helped prevent Hand in Glove reaching the charts, but their next single cracked the top 30. This charming man reached number 25 in the charts, earning the Smiths their first ever appearance on Top of the Pops.
On the same show, it was either Spandau Ballet or Paul Young's band, and the guitarist had to walk through the door sideways to get his shoulder pads through, you know, it's like, coming through! And massive haircuts, and, yeah. So I think it kind of stood the test of time a bit. It's a lot easier to watch on telly than if we would have had, you know, John Collins shoulder pads and stuff. I couldn't get them in my size anyway. I will go out tonight, but I haven't got
the sticks to wear. Musically, we were brilliant. I like to think so anyway. Some people thought it was shit. I don't. I thought it was great. It's a lovers or loathers, which I'd much rather have than polite acceptance of, well, yeah, they're there. I don't like them. Oh, I do. Oh, right. I like that kind of anger of, you know, of being on our side, and if you're not, then bye-bye.